So, the Naziah Harris case. Something, I've been doing a lot of research on the case, and something became clear to me tonight while watching an interview between Naziah's great aunt and her cousin, and I don't know, some community advocate network or something like that. Anyway, it made it very clear to me what the hugest issue here was, or like what led to Naziah basically being in the position that she was in. And so, and I just wanted to talk about why this points to, or how this points to why it's so important to heal these trauma patterns and generational karmic wounds and patterns, because otherwise it can lead to further issues for future generations or even for your own kids. That's why they say kids are your karma, because a lot of times, no offense, but humans are kind of stupid and they don't like heal before they have kids. And so then they have kids and then they have to end up learning those lessons because they don't become consciously aware of it until it's too late. So this is why it's important to heal before you have kids, because if you don't, then they are going to inevitably end up suffering the consequences of whatever it was that you did not fix, and then went on to model in their face as a supposed healthy norm that now they're going to have to figure out how to get the fuck out of in their own lifetime, because you didn't heal and teach proper modeling in order to allow them to live freely. Do you see how karma works? Do you see that, why it's so important to not have kids with sloppy Susie and sloppy, Sam or whoever the fuck ever? Yeah. And why it's also important to heal before you do, or make sure the person that you're having kids with is healed, because otherwise your kid is going to end up suffering. So, let's see. So, I was doing research, like I said, and come to find out, because the interviewer asked, like, where was Naziah's mom and dad when all this was going on? And one of the things that I found really annoying was that and granted, I get it, it's your family, so you want to have empathy for them, but it's like, come on, in a situation like this, the main people to blame are the parents. I don't give a fuck if they were there or not. If they were alive and they weren't there, then it is their responsibility and falls back on them. Even if they had the child adopted, which Naziah was adopted by her grandmother and great aunt. However, this is where it goes back to my original argument of, this is why certain people shouldn't have kids. Okay, because unless they're going to do it in a way that, like I said, values the life itself, which clearly none of these people did, and most people don't. Let's be real. They may say that they do, but again, a lot of times people's intentions are very selfish, self-oriented when it comes to stuff like that. Anyway, from what I've seen. So her mom, so let's start off with the grandmother. So the grandmother, Annette, because the sexual abuse started all the way back with her, and she became a mother, I think, at 11, Annette, the grandmother. So then Naziah's mother is born, and she was sexually abused at 13 as well. You see how epigenetics works? I mean, this is not just trauma and science in that way, but it's epigenetics literally, and points to how why it's important to heal certain things, because, and even when you do, how similar behaviors show up generation after generation despite that, because epigenetics is based on experience. It like changes your genetic markers or your DNA based on experience. So for example, Nazia's mom was perpetrated against when she was 13, and so it's not that surprising that then Nazia was perpetrated against at the same age. That's how epigenetics works. And that's why it can be so hard to avoid, and again, why it's so important to, because like, for example, like someone might look at that and say, well, how do you buffer against that? Like, what's the protective factor against that? Because it's like you can't help at 13 if you're sexually abused and then your future daughter goes on to also be like, how do you prevent that? It's like parenting, good parenting, and that comes from healing yourself. And this is where Nazia's parents failed her. And I'm also going to tell you what the dynamic was of the dude that Nazia's mom chose to have a kid with, and why you also don't do shit like this, okay? Because again, it's going with this same theme of what I've been talking to you guys about for months, which is that if you have a kid in circumstances that are harmful, meaning way too young or in a traumatic situation with traumatic circumstances, like, it fucks kids up, So what I was going to say is, Nazia's mom got pregnant with a married man. Okay, so again, these are decisions that we make, and then what we do going forward then impacts the child. So someone would say, what do you do in that circumstance? My personal opinion, I wouldn't go forward with having it. Why? What kind of a life is that? You're bringing a child into a circumstance with a father who clearly didn't want them because they're married. So why would you do that to that child? You're automatically bringing it into this world without a proper family, and by the way, Nazia's father's wife and her whole that whole family didn't even know that Nazia was born. Okay, so that's why the fuck you don't do that. So some would say to me, oh my gosh, so what are you suggesting? Yes, I'm suggesting healthcare. I'm suggesting not making dumbass decisions to bring people into shitty situations that you have no business doing so. You technically, if you want to talk about spirituality, you broke karmic law, you broke spiritual law by stepping over those boundaries to begin with to get involved with a married man. There's your first mistake. Talk about karma. Yeah. And then second off, so it's like she couldn't figure out whether she should go forward with having this kid. And I'm sorry, again, I don't understand this thought process, because I would already know the answer as soon as it happened, because you shouldn't even have been in that situation with that man to begin with. Because if you guys think about it. She didn't heal her wounds. She had been sexually abused at 13, and then she thought it'd be a good idea to bring a kid in this world when it was not in a healthy or safe or fair situation to do so. Sorry, but if you look at this case as a whole, if that woman would have made a different experience, if Nazia's mother would have made a different decision and not gone forward with that pregnancy, guess what would have happened right now in this moment? Nothing. This wouldn't be a thing. Do you guys see why it's so important to make responsible decisions? Furthermore, maybe had she used birth control or whatever, actually, let's be real, had she not fucking got involved with a married man to begin with, like, what is going on? You know what I mean? So it's just like, this is irresponsible as shit of these people. And then the great aunt and her cousin want to say, well, but we don't want to blame the mom because she had a rough life too, and she had a rough upbringing. And it's like, okay, then don't fucking have kids. There's your answer. Your answer is, if you have that rough of an upbringing and you can't handle parenting kids, don't have them. seems like a really straightforward, basic thing. It seems pretty obvious to me. So, you guys, my point in saying this, because I know some people are like, oh, is this shit talking? No, this is the title of my video. Look at the title of my video. The only thing that should have been done is that her mother should have healed if she, prior to that. So it's like people are like, oh, she had a rough life and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? You can go to therapy. You can heal. If you're on Medicaid, therapy's fucking free usually for some places. Where I work at, it is. So, there's really no excuse when it comes down to it. There's always some type of solution that you can come up with. And basically all I'm saying is that there was the first mistake. Like, that was stupid decision making. I'm not sure how she even got involved with this man, but then it's like you got to look at the man and it's like, was he a creep? And well, clearly he was cheating on his wife, but like, I don't know how old Naziah's mother was when she got pregnant with her. Okay, so there's that. Now, the other thing is that the mother of Jarvis Butt's kids, the 5 kids that he has, she, this is irritating me. I lost my train of thought. That's what I was gonna say. She was 16 and Jarvis was like, I think like 27 or 28 when they were dating and together. So he's been a creep for a long time. So he preyed upon her. So again, see how this is just like a whole family dynamic and pattern where all of these women have been perpetrated against in some way, shape, or form, and they go forward with having kids with these men who have either victimized them in some way or, are womanizing them in some way, and they're going forward thinking these are good candidates of men to have kids with for some reason. I mean, I like the other thing about this is like how desperate could a person possibly be? Like literally, even if the option was this creepy sexual predator, like say this guy was the last person on earth and that was the only option of anybody to ever like have sex with, have kids with, like I would opt out. It would be like, well, guess I'm being celibate this life. Like how desperate can you people be? I just, and again, this is why he chose those women though. He chose women that were easy targets in some way, shape, or form. So, that being said, then it fell on Naziah. So because her mom didn't want to take accountability and she thought it'd be a good idea to have a kid at, when she hadn't healed from her wounds, a kid that she couldn't even take care of. Again, I don't get what the thought process was there, but she said, I guess the guy said he was gonna help take care, and it's like, okay, but like, what about morals? Like, does anybody have morals? Like, my morals immediately would have told me, I'm sorry, but I can't go forward with this. This is not right. It's not right to your family. It's not right I even did this with you. It's not right to this potential future child whose life I'm ruining doing this to. I mean, I'm sorry, but I can't imagine if that was your whole life story and you have to think about for the rest of your life how you were born from someone that didn't even want you and is like a womanizer that like used your mother basically. It's like, wow. Yeah. That would not be, I mean, I'm sorry, that person's inevitably going to have some mental health issues with that being their outline or template for life. So, basically what I'm saying here is there's no excuse, and neither of, like, really, Neziah probably shouldn't have even been here, because her mom should have healed those wounds, and had she probably would have had a kid with somebody totally different, and this would not even be a thing. Do you guys see how that works? If you heal those wounds, usually those people who you potentially could have had an entire hellhole of a karmic life spent with them, could be prevented. But a lot of people don't prevent it, and I've never understood why. So this is why it's important to really look at what you've been through and address it before bringing other people into it, because your kids will pay for your mistakes. Especially if I hate to say it, like, look at Chris Brown. It's the same thing. He had a bunch of girls, a bunch of daughters. You think that's was for no reason? That's the universe likes to fuck around with people, basically. It's like, oh, you're a womanizing, abusing predator? Well, we'll give you a daughter. And then guess what's going to happen to her? Probably the same thing that you did to the person you had a kid with her with. She's going to be victimized in the same way, because, again, you didn't heal. So that's your karma. That's going to be your karma in some way, shape, or form, is that that child is now going to be preyed upon. And they're going to have to try to figure out how to get out of it with zero tools, because, they weren't equipped with them, because all they were modeled was, hey, this is what the norm is, and that's why you don't do that, because you're fucking with your kids' heads when you do that, or your future kid. So this is why all this shit is so important, and why you don't just, like, keep doing the same things over and over again. It's like, to be honest with you, if you're not healed and healthy, you really shouldn't be going around, like, and again, I mean, Neziah's mom was probably I don't know for sure, but maybe she was taken advantage of by Neziah's father. I don't know. I don't really know those details. I don't know those details, so I can't say for sure, but I do know that had different decisions been made, maybe that wouldn't have happened with Neziah, but it seems like that guy is just a total creep. So I think it's the women in the family that they're the ones who failed. They failed to heal their own wounds before going out into the world and, like, fucking guys. Like, literally. Like, yeah. Like, I don't get it. I think it's got to be an ignorant thought process, because, like, why would that even be like, oh, like, we need to think about this, like, should we go forward with this or not? Should you go forward with having a kid with somebody who's married? Come on, you guys. No. The answer is no. The very obvious answer is no. And then some people would say, well, that's not that child's fault. No, you're right, it's not. And so you bringing them into that situation is literally like punishing them for the rest of their life. But people would be like, no, but, like, having an abortion or getting rid of the child would be that. No, it wouldn't be. That child's not going to have to suffer knowing that you are dumb enough to have made this decision to have them with a married man, and that's their story. Which is less detrimental and less shitty to do? Because the reality of it is, I think what really happens is that women get in their own feelings. I think they get in their own feelings and they can't look past their own ego and their own emotions and, oh, but this is my baby. And it's like, yeah, but you know what? If you really looked at this, you would recognize that no, it's not, because you had no business having a kid with a married man to begin with. So no, that's not your baby, ma'am. That's that guy's wife's baby, because he shouldn't even have been having sex with you to begin with. So again, it's like super illogical, delusional thought processes here, and it's scary. I don't know, it's scary. And then part of me almost wonders, it's like, when you get pregnant, you've got all those feel good hormones going through your body. It's like part of me wonders, like, do women kind of like get swayed by that? I mean, because those hormones can be real powerful, man. And I mean, as a woman myself, but it's like, again, I can't imagine being, I'd have to be, you'd have to have me blackout drunk and high the whole time in order for me to go through with something like that. So like, it just wouldn't be possible, because I'm too smart about it, like intellectual about it. It's like, let's really think this through. Is this really going to be what's best for that child? Probably not. Or you, not even just the child, yourself. I mean, it's like, or anybody involved. And also, it's like, how dare you, and how selfish, because like, that man has a wife and you're not his wife. So yeah, if you want to do trashy shit out of wedlock, then I'm sorry, you should have to pay the consequences of doing stuff that oh, well, I don't believe in that. Well then, I mean, you don't believe in abortion, but you're okay with fucking a married man. Let's really think that through. Really? What is wrong with these people? Yeah, it's okay. I'm okay, having sex with a married man, but oh my gosh, that's a sin, or this is bad to like get an abortion. It's like, hello, where is this logic coming from? No, it's a sin that you even did that. So don't you think, if you're really looking at religion and all that from that perspective, don't you think it seems kind of sinful that you'd even go forward with having that child? I do. Because it was a sinful, quote unquote sinful, you guys, but it was a immoral act. So you think that going through with the pregnancy is moral? Come on, people. But again, people are like, but it's life. And then I go back to my original whole thing of like valuing life, and some people would say, well, that's not valuing life. It's like, actually it is, because you're recognizing that life deserves more than what you would be able to give it if you brought it into that shitty situation. So you are valuing it by saying, you know what, if this was me, would I want this? Would I want this to be my lifestyle and my life and my... People really don't think about that. They just think, oh, there's a baby there and let's just have it. And it's like, again, no. It's not your best approach if you haven't healed yet. Because again, that child is just going to have to go through the same things that you didn't learn. And that is a part of your karma, because because what you have to understand is, again, this points to value, and the universe does not take very kindly or gently to people who don't resolve their own karmic issues and wounds, and then selfishly and unfairly bring another human being into that mess. Okay? Because that's what you're doing. You're not healing your own wounds, then bringing another human being into your own karma. So the only thing that's going to happen is that's an additional person that's going to have to now figure out how to break free from those original trauma patterns or karmic patterns. You know what I mean? Not saying the person's not going to have a good life or something, you guys. That's not the point of this, but their life is going to be unnecessarily harder than it has to be. Do you get what I'm saying? Whereas, if you heal your wounds and then have a kid, your child is not in that same pattern, because you didn't choose somebody who you are playing out that pattern with still, if that makes sense. So, yeah. So that's why it's really important to work on those things, because and not make dumb decisions that impact an entire future person's life, you know, because those women want to say, oh, well, she had a hard life. Well, then, you know, if your life is that hard that you can't take care of a kid, like I had said earlier, then you shouldn't be having one. But yeah, I really wanted to be able to play those clips, just showing that. I don't know. And then I also watched a video where Nazia's mom was talking to her cousin on the video, and Nazia's mom was like, well, you know, people are saying, like, I don't know, she was kind of like making excuses, and saying, like, oh, I don't have to be around or in the news in order for me to care. And it's like, no, lady, that's not the point. The point is, like, people are wondering, where have you been this whole fucking time? Nobody gives a shit whether you're on the news like the rest of her family members or not. They're just wondering, where the fuck have you been up until this point? And then furthermore, like, I think they're just saying the fact that you're not heavy in people's faces trying to figure out what's going on really says a lot about you yet again. Because it's like, where have you been this whole time? And then now when this is happening, you're still quiet as a mouse in the background. I think that's people's point. It's like, usually a really concerned parent is kind of like Zion's mom, Sierra Milton, who, you know, she was all over the news. She was fighting for her daughter. She was, you know, and it's not because of how Nazia's mom is trying to make it seem like, oh, you know, just because I'm not on the news. It's like, no, that's not the point. What they're just saying is that as a result of caring, you would be seen more. We would see you more, you know, on the news. And she's trying to manipulate it and make it seem like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. It's like, yeah, it does. And that's the point, is that, where the hell have you been, lady, while your daughter was getting sexually abused for years by this creepy man? Like, I'm sorry, but ultimately it is on you, because the reality that people need to understand is, as a girl, it is really tough to build self-esteem in a world full of, you know, women that can be really mean, girls and women that can be mean. And so that's why it's so important for a female to have their mother there, because the reality of it is, nobody's going to vouch for their kid the same way a healthy mother is going to. Notice how I said healthy. And so it's just kind of like, that was what failed her, because, like, the other kids, or like her cousins who she was living with, they had their mom to vouch for them, you know, but it's like nobody was vouching for her, and that's what made her vulnerable. And that's where it's just like, there's really no excuse. And her mom, I mean, didn't even seem upset on the phone call. It's like, how are you not, like, crying? And I mean, just the pure negligence of all of these adults, including her mother, is just really pitiful and sad. Um, yeah. So those were the main things I wanted to talk about, was just like how they did fail her. I mean, even, you know, you look at her father. Why the hell did you do that? Why did you step out of your marriage? And if you're going to do that, you know, dude, and you're that much of a piece of shit, at least use protection so that other lives are not created and brought into your mess, you know? So yeah, I think that's the main thing with it. the reality of it is, Neziah didn't stand a chance because this pattern had festered for generations, previous generations before her, and hadn't been fixed. And so, yeah, her whole family failed her. In particular, like I said, the women, her mom, her grandmother, the women around her who failed to, even her great aunt, who failed to heal these patterns and you know, break these patterns of repeating the same sick shit over and over again. Thank God the guy who lives above me left, I think. But yeah. And the sad part is, Neziah didn't even have an opportunity to break the pattern and that's why the parents should have broken, because it's like she could have, had she had an opportunity to live, but with a pattern like this, it would have had to have been her mother who healed the pattern. Which part of that healing could have been, ensuring that she was more protective and supervising her child more and ensuring that she was a major part of her child's life. But again, that didn't happen. So some of these things you can heal, if you go forward with it too, if that makes sense. But there are some, karmic decisions that we make that are kind of harder to clean up or fix than others, I guess. So, yeah. But now, hopefully, Jarvis's actual kids, he has a daughter that he perpetrated against, and now it will be on them to heal the trauma pattern and not repeat it, and like I said, Neziah she didn't stand a chance in this situation to heal it. I mean, obviously. So it's like, again, whatever. I'll just be repeating myself at this point. I don't know. I think the reality of it is the lack of standards, period, surrounding this guy was problematic, and that could have prevented this to begin with. Just having boundaries and standards of who you, again, choose to be with and choose to procreate with. I think it's very unconscious to just do that with just anybody. People really abuse it in that way. It's become something where it's not even sacred anymore. It's just like, yeah, I just, you know, get pregnant with Joe Schmo. Okay, yeah, hey, little Schmo. it's like, it's like, what is wrong with these people? Little Schmo. Poor little Schmo, now stuck in the world. I don't know. I just don't know what the thought process is behind that. I really would like to interview some people and say, what was your immediate thought process when you found out that you were pregnant by this piece of shit? Was it like, oh, this guy's a piece of shit, I'm gonna do it anyway? Or did you not even consider the fact that this was a mini half piece of shit version of this person that you chose to procreate with? Or, I mean, really, because these are truthful statements, and I'm just so confused why people so casually donate their DNA off to these loserish people. I just don't understand. It's like, what? I'd sooner donate my eggs to an egg bank. Gee, at least they fucking pay you, and you know what I mean? It's like, what is going on? People are desperate, I guess. I think because people, I don't know, I can't, again, it's hard for me to perspective take with this, but, and this is where I'd want to talk to people about this. It's like, I wonder, I don't know if like the perspective is like I really, I ponder this a lot because it's so confusing to me. And it's like, I don't know, like, is the thought process like, is there like fear tied to it? Is it like, oh, I'm afraid like I'll never like have a guy, you know, are you, do you think that low of yourself, I guess, where it's like you just think, oh, I'll never come across this opportunity again? I don't get it. Like, you're still fertile. Like, I don't, like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't just donate my genes that that easily. Come on now. Because I got high grade shit. Like, what? You mix your DNA with the wrong person's shit, and your kid will come out looking like Blue Ivy did. Yeah. Yes, folks, here we speak the truth, even about kids. And I'm sorry, but you know, luckily she grew into her face, but boy, her face looked like Jay-Z's face for a long ass time. And you guys have seen Jay-Z's face, and it ain't cute. So that's why you gotta be careful who you have kids with. If you're not a very feminine, if you don't have very feminine facial features as a female, you might want to try to find somebody that has a little bit softer features. But I think that was the problem there. Is, no offense, but both Beyonce and Jay-Z have masculine features, and then they mixed them, and well, you see what it produced. Anyway, sorry. I know some people are probably like, that's mean. It's like, everybody has their own opinion, but, and like I said, she grew into her look. She's pretty now, thank God for the gal. But back in the day, that little girl was, yeah, kind of scary looking. I mean, everybody's scary looking as a kid. I was hideous at certain points as a kid. What? Like, why can't we say this? Why? I don't get it. Oh, it's a kid. It's like, yeah, what's your point? They'll be an adult someday too. And are you gonna say, oh, don't say that because they're an adult? Like, when are we gonna just tell the truth? It's like all humans are flawed. We're all hideous. Fucking, or whatever. A lot of humans are just humans in general, you know? Humans are flawed, and some more than others. That is for sure. And Jarvis Butts. That's why they gave him that last. That's why the universe gave that man that last name, because they knew he was just gonna do some fuckery, and they said, you know what? Here you go. Jesus. I don't know. Just try to wrap my head around it. I can't. Damn it, I thought that guy left. He's still stomping around up there. And my other, again, I keep saying this, but why does this guy never sit down? Why is he always walking around? I swear to God, I'll, okay, whatever. This will go on for hours, you guys. I almost want to knock on his door and say, hey, are you okay? Are you pacing? It sounds like you're kind of pacing up there. It's kind of what it sounds like. It's not like these apartments are that big. Where in God's name could you be walking to? Like 5 feet? Like, where are you walking? To the bathroom and back? Like, whatever. It takes me like 3 steps. So I just do not know what this guy's doing. But, yeah, so that's really all I had to say about it. Mostly, it's just like her family failed her. The grandmother seemed very negligent, callous. She didn't call the police until the next morning after she found out Neziah had gone missing, which is nuts, and also just like points to your lack of care and negligence. It's like, clearly you do not give a fuck about this little girl. Like, how could you go to sleep knowing in the middle of winter in January that you're a 13-year-old? Like, what were these people thinking? What was she thinking? I guess she just didn't care. That's the only thing I could think, is that the grandmother just didn't give a fuck. So it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. My whole thing is, I'm just thinking the moment that that woman saw those messages between Neziah and Jarvis on Instagram, she should have called the cops, or she questioned him on it, but it's like, come on, dude, that's not normal. There's no reason that there should have been any type of message exchange between him and that little girl. And then also, like, why does a 13-year-old have an Instagram? What is that for? Like, I mean, granted, I have a lot of clients. Like, I have like some young clients who are younger than that, actually, now that I think about it, that are like on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm just like, what is wrong with these parents? You know, it's like, there's a lot of negligence and it's scary. And like, I just, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I even think about that. I'm thinking about just like other, I don't know, just negligence on different parents' parts. And like, I don't know. It's sad. But yeah, that was the main shit I wanted to talk about. I think that's probably all I'm gonna say. I might do a cancer reading after this. I was supposed to do the weekly readings, but I've just really been on this Nazaya case. It's just been weighing heavy on my mind and heart. Just, I don't know, some things just don't ever go, some things just stay with you. And two cases that will forever, ever stay with me are Nazaya and Zion. But yeah, this is why, like I said, really looking at yourself and healing your own issues. I just realized I need to get rid of this paper on this candle because earlier the other candle went up in flames. The other candle went up in flames and the smoke detector went off. And I was so scared because I'm like, oh man, I hope like the whole building shit doesn't go off and then the fire department, whatever. But it didn't happen like that. I just threw it in the sink. And anyway, I'm preventing that. I just took this off the candle. But yeah, I think I'm gonna